My name is Brad Heckman. I am the Director of Bands here at Mount Vernon High School, state of Missouri. I guess long about 2012, I was teaching and we had a snow day. And I guess for years before that, my dad and I would go out in the wood shop and I got on a lathe and he had an old Shopsmith and it was kind of a do-everything machine. And that was really cool to me because he got me a big old piece of walnut and I turned a lamp out of it. And sure enough, circle back around to about 30 years. 2012, my wife and I were at home and I was looking for just a little lathe and I found one on Craigslist for a whopping 50 bucks. And I called him up, went down, and not only did he have a lathe, but he had another Shopsmith, just like the one that my dad had, except for about 30 years newer. Brought that home, I put a little piece of walnut on this thing, I made one baton handle, stuck a piece of dowel rod in it, and I took a picture of it, said, oh, that was my project for the day. And then all of a sudden, I started getting requests, a lot of requests.
My name is Austin Jay. I am the educational representative for the Columbia store. I was a band director for 6 years. Now I'm traveling around and working with band directors in our area, making sure they have the things they need to run successful music programs.
Why use a baton? Is there a purpose behind it? Is there a reason?
A baton is an instrument of communication from a conductor to their students.
It is also meant to bring the focus into a single area. So the ictus of the baton, the very tip of the baton.
Each musician in your band, that's their instrument, but for a conductor, this is their instrument.
Frequency 126.6 block 11.
You do want to check that the length of the baton is about the same length as your forearm.
The handle should be about the same length as your thumb.
The main thing too is you want to make sure that your baton is balanced.
The more fluid you conduct, the more fluid they should play. And of course, if you need to reel them in just a little bit at a faster tempo.
It is meant to add to expression while at the same time like drawing in the focus to a single small point. So very effective.
There's a history to this business.
The history of the baton is, I think, pretty interesting. There are records that go all the way back to ancient Greece, around like 700 BC, of a music leader, the giver of rhythm, I believe is what they called him.
He was called the giver of rhythm.
Standing and leading a music group with a golden staff in his hand. But there's also the famous story of Jean-Baptiste Lully,
who about the mid-1600s used a staff, and there the French word for staff was baton.
They would slam it on the ground in the tempo of the piece that they were working on. I'm sure it was incredibly distracting and maybe even like precursor to modern day metronomes, right? But
he used this staff, he was directing his people, and he accidentally gouged his toe. Apparently it became an abscess, he got gangrene, refused to have it cut off, and therefore died from the injury.
So these conducting staves seem like they kind of fell out of popularity. Maybe it was the workplace hazard that was set into it, but.
After that, I think about 1820, it just kind of morphed and they started using all wood.
But once popularity caught on, like in the halls of royalty in Europe, they were made out of gold and laced with precious gems, and just to add to the showiness of it all.
And it has evolved.
I think that's incredibly powerful to think that this tradition has been around for at least 3,000 years. This idea of gathering together, making music together, and then also someone leading with that implement, if you want to call it that. That lineage is very powerful to me.
When I talk about someone being a Palen band director, it's a direct correlation between us, our success, and Palen Music. I've been working with Palen for 22 years. They provide all of our beginner band instruments. They take care of any Gosh, I've gotten sheet music needs from them. They help us put on a marching festival here in Mount Vernon. I can call them just about any time, day or night, and say, hey, I got a problem, and they help me figure out how to fix it. I have acrylics of every color you can think of. I've got some that are transparent. I have little moons and stars. I like working with wood because that's going back to the days of standing in the shop with my dad. There's never any one of them that's exactly the same. I hand turn all of them. My hope for each one of these is that they find a band director or choir director, orchestra director, who feels like it's their indispensable tool. It's all about communicating well, and so you want to communicate with something that you feel great about. The cool thing is I do have batons all over the world, which is weird to me, because when I started this in 2012, I never would have dreamt that it would have turned into this. It was kind of a happy Bob Ross accident. I just wanted to wave.